some for use by health professionals and others for self-help, which may help an individual reduce their levels of stress, provide positive feelings of control over one's life, and promote general well-being. Evaluating the effectiveness of various stress management techniques can be difficult, as limited research currently exists. Consequently, the amount and quality of evidence for the various techniques varies widely. Some are accepted as effective treatment for use in psychotherapy, while others with less evidence favoring them are considered alternative therapies. Many professional organizations exist to promote and provide training in conventional or alternative therapies. There are several models of stress management, each with distinctive explanations of mechanisms for controlling stress. Much more research is necessary to provide a better understanding of which mechanisms actually operate and are effective in practice. In order to develop an effective stress management program, it is first necessary to identify the factors that are central to a person controlling his or her stress and to identify the intervention methods which effectively target these factors. Alright, welcome back. It's still Galaxy today. You just got a bit of a background information on what stress is and how to manage stress, because different levels of stress for different individuals and various techniques and mechanisms to handle them.
Definitely. I think one of the interesting things I'd like to know is if stress is a sickness, because with normalized stress, I think virtually everyone experiences it. So I would like to know if it's actually a sickness or it's something normal.
Because I think it is a sickness, because it has a way of whatever affects you psychologically, that's your health. So it is. Well, I'm not the doctor. I'm sure the doctor will tell us if it's actually a sickness, because the way you look at it, it has a way of actually affecting you. Somehow it can actually lead to your blood pressure rising up. So if it's not a sickness directly, indirectly it is a sickness. But let's see what Dr. Emeka Moma has to tell us as we get stress management. Good morning to you, Doctor. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today. But first off, let us try and get this out of the way. My colleague and I here just want to be clarified on if stress is a sickness, or maybe if you want to term it a disease.
Or a condition.
A condition. Please explain it to us. We'd love to hear.
Eddie, there's a breaking transmission. Can you repeat the question?
Stress and a health issue. Okay, it is a health issue. Is it a condition? Is it a sickness? What exactly is stress? Break it down to us health-wise.
That's an interesting segue we have there. Well, stress in itself is a condition, not necessarily an illness or a sickness, but is a condition where the mind or the brain gets slightly overwhelmed. Now, there's a biochemical explanation to how stress emanates. So, typically in the brain, there's a particular hormone called cortisol. Whenever we get into a stressful situation, the cortisol level in our system rises. So that is typically what's a sense of what's called a flight or flee mode. Flight or flee meaning that when we're scared, the body has an innate ability to run away from a thing that scared them away, and flee likewise. So we either fight or we flee. Typically, when we're under stress, the cortisol level rises and ignites the brain to decide whether to fight or to flee. So in essence, stress in itself is a mental state of mind where the body is in an overtly excited state. So I would define stress as a medical condition, truly speaking.
causes stress exactly?
Well, we live in a very excitable modern environment where we're constantly engaged. We're constantly engaged, so the brain never actually has a time to reset itself. Uh, Things we eat, our lifestyle, will and can trigger stress. So heavy caffeine can trigger stress. A high workload, emotional helplessness can trigger stress. When we feel hopeless and we feel like we're not able to cope can trigger stress. Not being able to find time to rest can trigger stress. Our activity, even within our social media space, can trigger stress. So several things, both within our environment and organically within our system, can all emanate in that quote unquote word called stress.
At the point of being stressed, are there immediate um, solutions to it? Like, how can we relieve stress generally?
The first thing we want to do, medically speaking, is to be able to identify that you actually feel stressed. Most individuals walk around not knowing that they're actually very stressed out, but they feel they can mask it by either taking certain stimulants, coffee, caffeine, alcohol, any kind of thing they consider stimulant. But once stress has been identified, the simplest way is to find a way to relax. Exercise has been shown time and time over to be the quickest and most efficacious way to minimize and reduce stress level. Our sleep cycle, being able to regulate our sleep cycle is very important. Averagely, based on your personality and body type, anywhere between 5 to 8 hours of sleep is considered what is normal sleep. Disengage. Every now and then, you should be able to pull back and be able to so you can take control of your environment. Being able to identify those stressors. Once you can identify those stressors, then it kind of gives you a sense of control so that you can know how to go about handling the stress in itself. So those are the ones that come to mind for now. But there are several others. I must also mention being able to identify someone you can talk to. Very important. Either a counselor, a person of faith, or a professional like what we do.
Interesting, you talked about exercising as a way of relieving stress, but that sounds ironic to me because exercise itself isn't that stressful on its own.
Yes. Most people tend to correlate exercise with physical activity, which can be stressful. It makes sense. Like I explained initially, what triggers stress in our body? When we're under a stressful situation, the cortisol level rises. But it's also been shown that when that cortisol level rises, as we engage in physical activity, there is also a hormone or chemical in our brain called endorphins, which quote unquote are called the happy hormones. Once the happy hormones rise with exercise, it helps to bring down that stressful cortisol hormone and you have a fine balance. So the body amazingly has been created to be able to mitigate and balance out between stress and physical activity. So ideally, the body can handle both. But the more we stay physically active, the happy hormone, the endorphin hormones rises to a level that it pushes down the cortisol stressful hormones, and that's how the body can actually handle it. So it's actually a good thing to exercise, even when stressed, I must say.
Look at the broad range or the spectrum of stress. Let me try and understand how it correlates with some anxiety. And over time, if you are stressed, can it have any relationship with being depressed over time?
Let's repeat the question.
Okay, let me repeat the question, Dr. Moma. I just want to get the broad range spectrum of stress, how it relates with depression, and could it also lead to anxiety over time?
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. Stress can vary from what in psychiatry or psychologists will go from generalized anxiety disorder. So you wonder why when you enter a public vehicle you feel more anxious than the person sitting next to you, to the individual who always, even in their household, needs to be sure that the door is locked all the time, or they're always checking their cell phone to be sure they've either gotten a good message or a bad message, to a condition where we term clinical depression, mean that your activities of daily living, you can no longer be involved in your activities of daily living, mean that your coping mechanism has been somewhat compromised. It's a wide spectrum, so you can have someone who ordinarily can cope and manage, but is always in a heightened state of anxiety, to a mid-level where with anxiety, the anxiety can arrest you, and you just cannot handle certain activities, to a more varied condition called depression, where you can no longer engage in those your activities of daily living. It's usually tied to essentially your ability to cope with your everyday life. So are you sleeping too much? Are you sleeping too little? Can you cope in the workplace? Your eating habits, your ability to take care of your surroundings, and you take care of your person. So it's a very wide spectrum.
Right, at this point, we must say a very big thank you to Dr. Emeka Moma for giving us the perspective on stress and how we can manage it. Dr. Emeka Moma joined us from Abuja. He is a medical practitioner. All right, just to remind our viewers that you can be a part of this discussion, feel free to send us SMSs if you have a question for the doctor. Or you can also interact with us, join the conversation on social media using the hashtag Galaxy. Today, we'll take a quick break and we'll come talk to our doctor here in Lagos to join us again. Stress management is a wide spectrum of techniques and psychotherapies aimed at controlling a person's level of stress, especially chronic stress, usually for the purpose of improving everyday functioning. In this context, the term stress refers only to a stress with significant negative consequences, or the stress in the terminology advocated by Hans Selye, rather than what he calls eustress, a stress whose consequences are helpful or otherwise. Stress produces numerous physical and mental symptoms which vary according to each individual's situational factors. These can include physical health decline as well as depression. The process of stress management is named as one of the keys to a happy and successful life in modern society. Although life provides numerous demands that can prove difficult to handle, stress management provides a number of ways to manage anxiety and maintain overall well-being. Despite stress often being thought of as a subjective experience, levels of stress are readily measurable using various physiological tests similar to those used in polygraphs. Many practical stress management techniques are available, some for use by health professionals and others for self-help, which may help an individual reduce their levels of stress, provide positive feelings of control over one's life, and promote general well-being. Evaluating the effectiveness of various stress management techniques can be difficult, as limited research currently exists. Consequently, the amount and quality of evidence for the various techniques varies widely. Some are accepted as effective treatment for use in psychotherapy, while others with less evidence favoring them are considered alternative therapies. Many professional organizations exist to promote and provide training in conventional or welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's Galaxy today, and we are talking about stress management, handling stress. Feel free to join in the conversation. Send us an SMS if you have a question for Dr. T, or you can also do that on social media by interacting with us on our social media platforms using the hashtag Galaxy today. Let's make welcome our public health and practitioner, Dr. T Mebawondo. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're not stressed.
I'm really stressed. I'm stressed.
All right, doctor. We've been discussing stress, the causes, and symptoms. I want to also switch gears a little bit. Are there visible signs really when one is stressed?
Yeah, yeah. Again, let's um, clearly clarify one thing. One, stress is number one. I mean, chronic stress is number one public health enemy. Number one, because it has a way of affecting everything from head to toe, relations, jobs, how you carry yourself, can lead to suicidal ideation, can lead to depression. You can have post-traumatic stress disorder. Stress is once it is chronic, it's number one public health.
When you say chronic, doctor, what makes stress chronic?
Yes, I will explain. Essentially, it's the feeling we have. Stress is the feeling we have when we're under pressure, when we need to confront things in life, when we need to challenge living. Because the living itself puts a lot of pressure on us. The pressure of confronting those pressures leads to a feeling of being stressed. Now, there's what we call eustress, EU stress. I mean, that's the normal stress. The normal stress that makes you cope, that drives your ambition, that makes you do your job everywhere. Those are normal stress. And those ones just happen normally, and then it goes as long as you solve those problems. But there are some stress that we call, the repeated stress. Or, it comes on, and then you have stimulation over and over. Those ones, again, yes, can lead to some challenges in your health system, especially related to your ability to sleep and then the function of your heart. But it's a chronic stress that the stressor, what actually touches you, is constantly there. And those ones have foundation either in your living, in your family life, in your job situation, in your environment. The chronic stressors are just there. And to a large extent, you just cannot really cope. Either you took an adaptive mechanisms or you embrace the stress and the stimulation keep continuing. Let's appreciate this fact that the basic thing in stress is that once the stress happens, the brain releases some basic hormones. Cortisol is one of them, adrenaline from the upper part of the kidney, and then noradrenaline. These are what we call the stress hormones. Once the brain is used to releasing those stress hormones, even when you go back and you're in a chronic state, those hormones are still there. You can really trigger those hormones easily, and the damages on your organs will keep going on. So that's why we said stress is number one public health enemy.
Okay, it's a public health enemy, but we find that we live with all of these things on a daily basis. I'm talking about the stressors. You talk about family, you talk about work, you talk about people around you, even to society itself. So how do we begin to manage this? Is it something like, okay, for instance, you feel you're being pressured at work and you're so stressed out. How do you begin to work in your office environment and maintain a balance so you can achieve the result at the office and also maintain a well-being of your own?
Yeah, these are the core issues. But the question is that, if you want to look at local manifestation of stress, how do we know? First and foremost, I think in this part of the world, any part of the world, you should pay attention to stress. There must be a public health checks on how to know what stress level are you, from let's say 0, no stress, or less stress or normal stress, to 10. Of course, unfortunately, there are no diagnostic equipment to say that, once I take this, we'll know that this person is stressed. But it has to be a kind of interview, sitting down and trying to understand the challenges you are facing. Of course, the person who is stressed because of the cortisol is tense, the person can barely sleep, the person has headache that he cannot explain, the palpitation, the heart start beating abnormally, you might even have indigestion, they might start gaining weight, and then the person will just lose interest. In some cases, there's lots of libido. The person cannot just do anything, It's a confluence. In fact, stroke and heart attack is usually preceded by a high rise in cortisol, which is the hormone for stress. So you see that the thing actually touch from head to toe. Now, the key question is this. We must be able to look at it from individual level, from family level, and from the community or workplace level. The balance of work play must be maintained in such a way that the work environment should be stimulating enough to put a distressor, what can really reduce stress in such environment. You cannot keep stimulating somebody and expecting you improve productivity. You're honestly wasting your time. So personally, it's at your own level. You must identify your triggers or stressors, those things that really take you beyond your limit. Of course, you know your limit. when you're having headache, when you cannot sleep, when you find that you get angry easily, you know, little thing you are provoked, you start, when you need to talk gently to your partner or your children, you start shouting and, you know, you look agitated. You suddenly find out that you are taking too much of beer, you are taking too much of alcohol, you are smoking excessively. These are actually the outcome of a stressed person. And then, you know, you find out that, you know, to even be able to concentrate on a task, now becomes a problem. You cannot meet schedule. You know, these are some of the signs of the burnouts that you see in somebody who is stressed. So, at individual level, you know, of course, simple thing like playing music, listening to good music can actually reduce stress. So, if you see people putting on those earphones and trying to listen to music, don't just somehow maybe they are reducing their stress, okay? And even those common things, people are listening to comedies and all those things. Those are the things that tend to calm your mind and help you, you know, to reduce stress. So, and then there are some food we don't encourage a stressed person to take, and which is so common, which I'm also guilty of. Coffee is one of them, you know. Yeah. Of course, coffee and alcohol will increase your stress because you pour out more of those negative hormones in your body. Of course, if you have to take anything like that, a green tea is a far better choice because it contains a lot of antioxidants and then can then help you to calm you down. So you have to go back and structure your sleep appropriately. If you find that there's a workload, you have to really do a proper timing for your work. You have to time your work. You have to be able to do what we call time management. And then this habit of us working non-stop and not taking holiday, you need to enjoy your break. You need to take your holiday because at the end of the day, when the stress becomes chronic and it enters and starts breaking down your system, there's no going back. These are some of the things. But again, there are deliberate breathing because again, somebody who dances and enjoys dance, please go and dance. Yeah. We saw a senator that can dance very well. Yes. So if you want to learn, you can then go there and learn how to dance. So dance very well. It's a stress reduction. Exercise, ordinary walking, okay? No matter if it's just 2-3 minutes exercise, it's a stressor for anybody. So all these things you can talk to your friend, you can phone sometimes, you know, go and say, where are you? Let's talk. Just sit down and be talking and be really raising this issue. But that process of interaction and being friendly with people and talking, making friends can actually reduce your stress. Now, people tend to say, what drug are you going to use to reduce stress? Honestly, the drug will just camouflage the stress thing, but your stress and the stressor, as long as they're there, they'll keep giving you keep having a rebound and recurrence of that stress situation. Simple breathing exercise, okay, because deliberate breathing, you take your breath in regularly and calm down. Some people looking at scenery, sit down by the waterfront and just calm and be looking off their phone because that's another thing. If you find that all this news, because we are confronted with a lot of bad news, I run away from watching news, especially on some foreign channels. Yeah. It's always bad news. Okay. Before you know it, your mind is absorbing those negative things and is dropping cortisol, to prepare you for either fight or flight. You are whether you are aware of it or not aware of it. For instance, whether even if you think about those things, it can actually add to your stress level. So if you know that those things are your triggers, run away from those newspaper reviews and their problems because it can really be stressful. It can really be stressful.
I can imagine.
Well, doctor, how can we really measure stress level, if not for ourselves, for others? You talked about the fact that some of the lifestyle we live sometimes triggers some of this. And the truth of the matter is, you have to agree with me that some Nigerians can be very stubborn. For example, even if they are going through stress at work, they keep on working and don't want to take medication. So are there visible signs, for example, signs that can tell, okay, this is the breaking point for this man or this woman, and that will inform, a checkup possibly?
Now, if you're working with somebody and you find out that the productivity is reducing, okay, and you find out the person cannot concentrate on a task at hand, the person complains of consistent headache, because the cortisol acts through critical mechanisms. It increases cholesterol, which leads to problem with the heart, and also affects insulin metabolism, which can actually make you add weight and then lead to a type of diabetes. Okay, These are some mechanisms. The person cannot eat. You know, he's always down. You see the countenance is low. The person cannot eat, and you have seen that this thing is, you know, is consistently not lifting. Okay, it's just there. He's depressed. His countenance is down. He cannot eat. He's having consistent headache. He's having, you know, abdominal disturbance, and he cannot sleep, and he's always complaining and cannot function at work. As a boss or as a person supervisor and this supervisor, all you need to tell the person, you need to take a break. You need to take a break and, you know, look at those things. But again, you appreciate the fact that the key stressors happens at what level? Finance, family,
Marriage,
work.
Yes.
Work. Those are the three key. You know, when of course the one in the traffic, by the time you wriggle yourself out, you go and rest at home or somewhere. Maybe that one is temporary. But consistently at home, consistently issue of finance, consistent issue of work, because the worry of having to get work. You see recently Nigeria is having the percentage of unemployed people. Yeah. These are core issues that is going to increase drug usage among the substance abuse among the teenager and the productive population of Nigeria. You know, even the violent crime, all this can increase violent crime. That's why I was saying that stress, you know, what we call chronic stress, not the normal stress. The chronic stress is the number one enemy, the number one public health enemy in a country. But unfortunately, we're not measuring it.
We see people begin to gray. Maybe a gentleman in his 20s, and people say you're stressed. We see ladies, for example, begin to have breakouts, pimples, and stuff. Can you link? Is there any linkage between all of those to stress?
Obviously, there are skin reactions to stress. You know,
really?
Like I said, stress affects you from head to toe, from toe. There's skin reaction to it. Now, one aspect of it is this: those who want cortisol shortens. There's a portion in DNA we call the telomere. It shortens the telomere. The telomere is responsible for the length and longevity. So once that one is shortened, the DNA cannot replicate itself properly. The person ages quickly. So you are seeing the connection between stress and aging, okay? And then even in some country, you know, where you plug the hair, those who have the thing to measure, they can check the cortisol level even under the hair and say that, okay, wait a minute. Even the saliva, this person, the cortisol level is too high for this person.
So for a young man who is just unnaturally graying, it could be attributed to stress. Let me
People see you and they tell you you're stressed.
You're stressed.
Yeah, again, that's true because again, if anyone says that he loves stressful situations, the person is kidding. Yes, you will cope, but the damages will be there, will continue. You know, we know, graying, let's even look at, graying can be genetic. There could be some genetic component to graying. But the other aspect of that, of the graying is that when you see somebody that is, you don't see a lot of graying in the family, and then suddenly the person is growing gray. You know, the pressure of the work, the need to achieve more, the pumping of cortisol into the system, and of course, not just that graying, the person will age quickly, the heart will be compromised, the digestive system will have problems, you know, he will find unable to sleep, cannot concentrate, will be irritable, you know. So there's a lot of physical, behavioral, and psychological aspect
to stress,
to manifestation of stress.
Okay, let's still talk about people who have some debilitating disease like maybe diabetes and who have heart issues like maybe high blood pressure. What would you advise them to do as regards managing their stress level?
Again, there are two ways. The chronicity of that illness will aggravate stress.
Oh, really?
And the stress will worsen the illness.
Wow.
So it's a both-way reaction.
Yes.
So all the person needs to do is to be reassured that after seeing the doctor is to know that, well, how do I manage my disease? And stay put with that structure of managing the disease. Or look at people with HIV/AIDS, and they have to be on drugs. They have to contend with it. They can't explain to anybody their problem. They're just using drugs. Some of them, you know, are thrown out of their matrimonial home or those kind of things. So again, those kind of things will add to their stress. Even the disease will cause stress. So first and foremost, for them, they need to deal with the disease.
Okay.
Because, you know, once you are dealing with one aspect of it, you are definitely going to improve on the
Job aspect.
other angle of the chain. So the simple thing is that take your drugs appropriately, eat right, sleep well, okay, and then embrace that things that make you happy. Because again, what is a life without happiness? I agree that to a large extent we must deliberately cultivate happiness. Because what is the point of staying 100 years and be unhappy? Okay? So let's cultivate happiness. And most of the thing we need to do is within us. Because happiness will not be an external thing. Even if you take alcohol to be happy, it's going to be a brief moment. It's the thing to, it's a mind training. I'm not an expert in that, but the psychologist, which is even not too common in Nigeria. You cannot readily say that, where do I see a psychologist now? And you'll be able to say, okay, let me go to social place and see a psychologist. They're not common because we believe that, you see. And let me also point out, to a large extent, embracing a belief tend to stabilize, your stress level and make you want to be energized. But there are other extremes to those beliefs, especially when people get to the level of fanaticism, not sleeping at night, having to do all night, 40, 100 days fasting and prayer. Those ones will definitely add to your stress level.
Yeah.
It will. Let's not deceive ourselves. It will add to your stress level. So for everything, we must be able to maintain that middle path, and not jump going here or going this way. So for us, we will not be able to capture. I think that is the key thing now. As a public health initiative or a public health intervention on stress level all around the country, we will not be able to capture a clear-cut way of looking at how stress reduction strategies, even at the public health intervention, level of public health intervention, even at the individual level, because everybody is looking at how do I reduce my stress. They will just go and buy a bottle of beer, sit down and drink and smoke and do pepper soup and shout and then go home. By the time they wake up the next day, the family is staring, the wife is staring at them like, hey, where's the money now for your children's school fees? The stress is back.
Okay, let's revisit workplace stress again. A lot of people work and they don't get the chance to rest. You said people should always cultivate the habit of taking leave. If you work in a place where you don't get the chance to rest, you can't go on leave, the natural thing for you would be maybe quit the job so you don't fall off and die. But Nigerians, we have this. Job. Yeah, we have this mentality. Yeah, because that again is stress on its own. If you decide to quit and there's no money, So how can we manage this? The normal Nigerian will tell you, in our local parlance, we say, "Na so we see them, na so we see them, na so we see them." But people are dying. How can we manage this?
I think honestly, if we want to improve productivity, there are core things we need to be incorporating into our workplace. You understand? Every serious work environment is thinking of promoting health within a work system. Every serious, in fact, big agencies. Recently, I read that NDDC, as big as they want to incorporate that into their work environment. These are simple things. As you are now, you can easily go and take a nap if you feel so tired. You may have a place to go and run on the treadmill for a short period. You will have a place to just play table tennis for something, a room where you can even listen to music and sit down and listen to music. We must be able to create that kind of environment when you know that you've reached a block in your workflow. You just say, "Oh, let me go and take some nap," and just cross your leg, put your headphone on, and listen to music, and then jump up. That short break interval can do a lot in promoting, your performance, enhancing your performance in your workplace, and promoting your productivity. So the workplace environment, it shouldn't be the brick and mortar that we used to know, in the sense that you dress up, you put on tie, you get to office, 10-story building, you are there, desks are arranged, and then when it's closing time, you just stay there in front of your desk. You just give excuse that you want to go and eat and run away if you are stressed. But we should be able to incorporate a work environment that is modern, that is agile, that is adaptive. So in such a way that at the end of the day, if I'm in this work environment and I feel stressed, I can easily walk to the room, a distressor room. Let's put it that way. A room, we call it a distressor room. So many things are in the distress room. I can run a treadmill. I can say, okay, this is table tennis. So somebody can hide in the corner and take a nap. Somebody can even take a shower.
Okay, but for
Okay.
instance, how do we go around that? For instance, you don't have the stressor room where you can go and take this nap or just do a bit of exercise or just generally just nap a bit. You know, what would you advise? For instance, would you advise that every employee maybe takes like an hour or two, even if it's just taking a break and moving away from the office environment? What do you do exactly?
Of course, I'm sure that's the normal practice in most work environment. That you work, you have a break of 30 minutes between maybe 12 and 12:30 as the case may be, and then you return back to work. But we must be able to elevate the whole thing, because you might even take that break and even increase your stress by walking to another place. Okay, we must be able to have most of the thing in house.
Okay.
That has made the practice that you said, this is my break time. I've gone for my break to eat. You know, again, most of the time now people bring the food to the workplace. Somebody serve you the food. But at the same time, let's create an environment. In fact, in some work environment, you know, somebody is there to teach them how to do yoga or breathing exercise, simple breathing exercise. Okay, I have a sit-down there, yes, come, or even it can be a video that you can put on and watch, and put your palms there and do your breathing exercise. I tell you, even me, when I'm really, of course, stress is part and parcel of me. I'll just enter my small room. You understand? I'll close my eyes and do my breathing exercise. It's as if I've not. It will be as if I've not worked at all. But of course, even if there's a pressure to even go and obey that, to go and follow that routine, there's also a pressure. Then once I can do it, I'm good. So these are simple things. But again, it gets to a point where the stress. Let me give an example. There's what they call post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
These are extreme stress. I'll mention another one. Now, somebody, maybe a reporter, you know, happen to be at the war front, or maybe at where the soldiers are in the northeast, and then what the person sees is saw horrendous acts going on. Okay, how people's eyes are plucked out, how their hearts are ripped apart, how the necks are being cut, and the person sees such a thing. Okay, when you see such a thing, the image, because the human mind is an image. The image former, an image absorber. The image cannot go away from the person. He after coming out, he wakes up the night and starts, hey, what is happening again? Hey, what is happening again? That stress has gone beyond the normal one we're saying. It hasn't gone beyond the chronic one. It's now causing greater damage to him. It's common among the military men, people that serve in emergency. Imagine during the 9/11. If you now were there and doing rescue operation, I see people jump, you know, falling from height and smashing their head on the floor. It's going to take a lot of, you know, strength and training for you to forget those things. And that's the purpose of debriefing. So people in those kind of situations, when you identify those kind of level of stress, they have to undergo what they call debriefing to be able to, as much as possible, clean those things from there. I doubt whether such thing applies here. Maybe it applies to Nigerian Army, but I can show that people that have, you know, that have experienced horrendous scenery and emergency, nobody does debrief. Nobody even interview them to know how much is hurting them. Nobody does debriefing. And then, of course, this can lead to a lot of negative psychopathic behavior. People carrying gun and shooting people anyhow. You know, people don't have regard for life. People haven't gone through those kind of things. So that's stress at the extreme. There's also what we call chronic fatigue syndrome. The person is just fatigued. Anything, he's just tired perpetually. He wakes up, he's tired. He's going to work, he's tired. He's sleeping, he's tired. He cannot function. Those are the extreme pressure of stress. Those are the extreme end of stress. And then you need to take this person in and see a psychologist and psychiatrist who is going to probably do a thorough, you know, mind turning, or you know, or therapy or psychotherapy for him to be part and parcel of organized society. So these are the extremes. But again, the issue of stress is being toyed with levity. We don't tend to consider it as a serious thing. No society can live on a stress level that's beyond 5.5 over 10.
In other words, stress is inevitable, right?
It's inevitable. We mentioned about eustress. That's normal EU stress. You stress for it to be normal stress. That helps you. For instance, if you hear, "Hey, fire," anywhere now, your body quickly pour out the cortisol, tense your muscle, increase your heart, make you more alert, and then you jump. During that point, the body must be prepared to take a daring move. You cannot normally take those daring moves. So the body has to be prepared. But again, it's when the thing becomes chronic, repeated stimulation, then you have that level of hormones in your body regularly. And then what that does is start damaging your system gradually. It's a higher energy, let me put it that way, that start touching and damaging your system gradually.
All right, it's still Galaxy today. We are expecting your messages and feedbacks. You can send us an SMS, the numbers displayed on the screen, or you can also interact with us on our social media platforms. We still have Dr. T. Mebawandu with us here in the studios. We'll be right back after this timeout to join us again.
What would you rather be watching during your lunch hour? Galaxy Television bringing to you a program that brings you closer to social media, trending stories,
agenda like you just read out.
breaking news.
There is nothing happening in Kogi beyond the government house that suggests that a governor who is responsible to the people is in charge of all.
Issues that affect you and family. The Bars, showing from 12 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. It's entertaining, interactive, and buzzing. The Bars, the program that keeps you glued to your television.
Stress management is a wide spectrum of techniques and psychotherapies aimed at controlling a person's level of stress, especially chronic stress, usually for the purpose of improving everyday functioning. In this context, the term stress refers only to a stress with significant negative consequences, or the stress in the terminology advocated by Hans Selye, rather than what he calls eustress, a stress whose consequences are helpful or otherwise. Stress produces numerous physical and mental symptoms which vary according to each individual's situational factors. These can include physical health decline as well as depression. The process of stress management is named as one of the keys to a happy and successful life in modern society. Although life provides numerous demands that can prove difficult to handle, stress management provides a number of ways to manage anxiety and maintain overall well-being. Despite stress often being thought of as a subjective experience, levels of stress are readily measurable using various physiological tests similar to those used in polygraphs. Many practical stress management techniques are available, some for use by health professionals and others for self-help, which may help an individual reduce their levels of stress, provide positive feelings of control over one's life, and promote general well-being. Evaluating the effectiveness of various stress management techniques can be difficult, as limited research currently exists. Consequently, the amount and quality of evidence for the various techniques varies widely. Some are accepted as effective treatment for use in psychotherapy, while others with less evidence favoring them are considered alternative therapies. Many professional organizations exist to promote and provide training in conventional or alternative therapies. There are several models of stress management, each with distinctive explanations of mechanisms for controlling stress. Much more research is necessary to provide a better understanding of which mechanisms actually operate and are effective in practice. In order to develop an effective stress management program, it is first necessary to identify the factors that are central to a person controlling his or her stress and to identify the intervention methods which effectively target these factors.
Welcome back. You're still on to Galaxy Today on Galaxy Television. And we'll be discussing stress, and we still have a doctor in the house. We'll have a couple of minutes to go on the show, but I just want to ask you, doctor, you talked about different kinds of stress, right? Perhaps transfer of aggression, could that be a symptom of stress or a sign of stress? You know, you go on the streets and you see people yelling, you see people, yelling at you, especially for nothing. Maybe you hop on the bus and some of our conductors, just start talking in a way that you don't like. Could that be possibly a sign of stress?
Yes, it could be, because you remember we spoke that for stress there could be physical manifestation, physical symptoms, there could be emotional symptoms, there could be behavioral symptoms. Now, when you see somebody, getting edgy, angry easily, shouting, becoming fidgeting, sweating unnecessarily, and becoming, tremulous. I mean, you know that this person is experiencing a higher level of stress. Okay, so we on the road rage is an expression of stress. When you see what happened on the road, conductor shout, this one shouted at you, those are the expression of stress. But again, you can still classify those ones as acute sort of stress. Because once you leave the road, those ones tend to die down. For instance, even if you have deadline in achieving a given task, once you achieve that task, the stress, the cortisol, the stress level tends to go down. So definitely it is. But even the idea of battering the wife, beating those things, they're uncontrolled stress, spousal abuse, those are features of uncontrolled stress. I can tell you that it's not as easy and as simple as we tend to put it. Because even for you can be undergoing stress without appreciating the fact that this is a lot of stress I'm undergoing. You can, it can lead to suicidal ideation, and can lead to depression. It can lead to a lot of psychological or psychiatric problems. If the stress continues. And then the coping mechanism for everybody is different. What we tend to advocate is the fact that whatever the situation, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether the issue of finance, we must be able to see how to mitigate it. If you see any country or any government that doesn't have a cushioning effect, for the citizen in terms of so many areas, especially financial, especially in providing jobs, of course, the stress level in the country is going to increase. The society will become unstable, and then the impact on the country will be quite glaring. So, even the many cushioning effects, many financial incentives, or even provision of social security and all those things, are particularly geared to relieve some of those predominant stressors in the society.
Is Commissioner for Happiness one of those?
Yes. Is it not a way of cushioning the effect
like
of stress?
Ministry or a ministry of happiness?
If you look at through all your other ministries and you do what you are supposed to do, okay, you may not even need to set up another thing for Ministry of Stress. You don't have to set up a Ministry of Stress. So, but again, if they feel that they can focus on that by doing that, sincerely let us address that. When Nigeria was rated as one of the happiest country in the whole world, probably is due to maybe relative financial economic stability we had then. And we know ourselves. We like our Ashebi, we like to do our dance, we like our parties. And when you add all those things together, it gave an appearance of happiness. As to see, you might even drop your Ashebi later in the day and be crying over your personal issue. they at least give an appearance, an outward appearance of happiness, which of course we need to maintain. And then you see, if as a party, comment, honestly, at the level of government, we should start looking at this issue and measuring the level of stress in the society in general if you want to run a stable community.
All right.
Secondly, at the workplace, we should start, introducing distressors.
At the workplaces.
Because if we want productivity, we must be able to make those people that are going to do the work quite relaxed.
All right, thank you, Doctor, so much for enlightening us on stress management and all we need to do today. Our guest here in Lagos has been Dr. Tuyi Mebowondo. He is a public health practitioner. Many thanks for joining us, Doctor, on the show today. We do appreciate it.
My pleasure always.
And of course, from Abuja, we had Dr. Emeka Moma, a medical practitioner who also gave us a perspective on handling stress. We must say a very big thank you to all of them and to all of you viewers who watched today and those behind the scenes, our producers and our control department. We say many thanks to all of you. My name is Justin Akadomian.
And I'm Joseph Okoto. Join us again for another package. It's the Lifestyle Edition tomorrow.